Hey guys, welcome to the Artisan channel, and today we're going to cover the Pandora Game Mini S, also known as the Powkiddy A19, also known as the Super Retro Game Handheld. Now, the naming is very confusing, but this handheld is clouded by that much confusion to the extent that I had to delete my last video and re-upload this video with more accurate information, which you are watching right now. Now, I'd like to thank somebody that commented on my last video. I hope he's a subscriber, but he cleared up my misconception about the fact that you're able to add ROMs to this handheld. Yes, you're able to add ROMs to it. Not all ROMs will work, but most of the ROMs that I tested just worked fine. It's not an easy process of adding ROMs, and I'll be clearing that up later on in the video, towards the end of the video, or such a timestamp. Now, another thing that I need to clear up about this handheld is that this was not supposed to go into full production. It's an engineering sample that was released prematurely because they had time limit issues with the main manufacturer. Now, they're still going to release another version with a proper D-pad. That's how you're able to tell the difference. And it's running a version of Android that is more user-friendly, and you're able to add your own ROMs and also add your own emulators. So it's better to wait for that version that will be coming out very soon. Now, we're still going to review this one and check out the pros and cons of this handheld, and I hope in the future that the other handheld will have everything fixed and it will be one of the best handhelds that the year has seen. Now let's get into the unboxing and see what's in the box. So we got the actual handheld, another box below it which contains the micro USB cable. That is pretty much it. For the rest, the handheld looks in pristine condition. Well, it actually does not have a screen protector, but that is fine since it looks pristine. The hardware and specs are in front of you on the screen in case you want to check it out. Now, as we might realize, this is running on hardware that is similar to that of outdated phones that used to run Android. It definitely puts the RG350, which is at a similar price point, to shame, but it will not be enough to run PSP and Dreamcast at a satisfactory FPS. That is for sure. N64, on the other hand, I think it will be able to run all right, not at max FPS, depends on the emulator they're using. But for this form factor and aspect ratio, this is something non-precedent and very welcome to see. Now, let's talk about my first impression on this handheld. It looks a lot like a Game Boy. It has the same layout. In case you love Game Boys, this is good news for you. But it's a lot thinner, and it definitely has a lot less weight to it. Now, holding it in my hands, it feels even better than a Game Boy. The ABXY CD buttons feel great. One of the best buttons I've felt in quite a while. The analog stick feels like a total rip-off of the Nintendo Switch, but the L3 press is the dead giveaway because it doesn't have one. But it is hands down the best analog stick I've felt on any handheld. The D-pad, on the other hand, isn't that awesome, isn't bad, but still not better than a proper plus D-pad. There are no L1 and R1 buttons on the back, which is a bummer because I even wanted to have L2 and R2, but I hope they will improve that in the future, as they will improve the D-pad. Now, moving on to the top of the handheld, where most of the ports are located. We have a micro USB port. I've hoped for a USB Type-C port, but this will do. A TF card slot, which is accommodated with a 32 GB SD card, loaded with a lot of ROMs. Here you have the headphone jack and a micro HDMI port. On the side of the handheld, we have the volume rocker. And on the other side, we have the power button with an LED indicator. Still on the front of the handheld, we have a small speaker here. I hope the quality is good enough, but we'll have our fingers crossed on that one until we open it up. Now let's move on and get into some gameplay. So after a lot of confusion and searching around, I finally managed to get ROMs to work on this. I even got Ocarina of Time randomizer to run. So there I noticed something, that this is actually not an analog input. This is a digital input in a form of an analog stick. It pretty much is a copy of the D-pad. You can't really walk
You can only run forward. In normal situations with Ocarina of Time, you're able to walk if you just lightly press it, but here, if you completely do it or not, doesn't make a difference. So it is a digital input. And it also is a copy of the D-pad, or the D-pad is the copy of the analog stick. I don't know which one comes first, but that's how we're able to tell that these are connected to each other, the analog stick and the D-pad, which means even the low amount of inputs it already has became even less with the D-pad copying the analog stick. Here I'm able to demonstrate the same issue. The analog stick is connected to the D-pad, and I was able to find that out as well with the same answer in the input tester in the settings. So yeah, there's a very low amount of inputs available to you with this handheld, sadly enough. And also another thing is I download Super Mario Land from the game store, and it has a cheat enabled. So yeah, who wants to play a game with cheats enabled? I don't want to do that. So, and I couldn't find any other one. The other one was in Chinese, so the only English one has cheats enabled. But probably you'll be able to provide your own ROM without this issue, but it's just a thing to point out. Now, here you have Sonic Adventure for the Dreamcast. We have another issue here, which is there is no analog input for this one, for the Dreamcast emulator, so I'm not able to play all Dreamcast games which used analog sticks. I'm just able to jump around with Sonic here. So yeah, that's also an issue I wanted to point out. Now, as I mentioned already, this handheld runs a modified version of Android, which mostly runs on Pandora boxes. And it has a plethora of ROMs, almost 200 pages full of FBA, MAME,
Neo Geo, Dreamcast, PSP, Nintendo 64 games, even PS1 games and stuff like that. Completely easily to access via this page over here. You can also search for certain ROMs using the search feature by pressing start. And also, if you press X, you can go to the store where you can download certain games. As you can see, you can download arcade games, Mega Drive games, Dreamcast games, PlayStation 1 and PlayStation Portable games, WonderSwan, and Super Famicom and stuff like that, etc. You can also search for games, which is very good. In my case, I want to show you something. I wanted to reinstall Mario 64 since I deleted it while trying to figure out how to add ROMs, but it does not allow me to reinstall it, which is kind of a weird bug. Here, you cannot install this game because it does not support your device, which is bullcrap. It was pre-installed on here already. But I tried to download other games and it did work. For example, I downloaded King of Fighters 98. Here I can show you. And it just downloaded fine, no problems. It isn't the fastest download speed, but it does work. We're not going to question the legality of that store since it's China, but yeah, I'm not really going to comment about that. Long pressing the home button, you can go over to the settings window. You have handheld settings, key settings, game settings for certain arcade games, I think. And you can enter the game market, change the language, check for updates, do a factory data reset. And let's check the handheld settings. Of course, we have Wi-Fi to be able to connect to the store, and we have Bluetooth for you to connect your gamepad and stuff like that, brightness, sound, sleep, all those basic features that a handheld should have. And of course, it's good that it has sleep mode because RetroPie handhelds don't have that.
Now let's address the question to how to add ROMs to this handheld. Now you take your handheld, you turn it off, then you go over to the top, you take out the SD card, pop it into your PC, and then you go over to the root of the SD card. And then there you have a folder that is called Games. You go over to Games, and then go into Download, and then over there, that's where you want to put your ROMs. When you put your ROMs in there, you'll have to rename them to something that has no spaces in them, so they have to be all connected to each other, even if it looks weird. But that's the only way that this handheld will recognize those ROM files. Now, in my case, I did not succeed in putting Game Boy games in there. I don't know, maybe it's the .gb file or the .zip file that does not work, and there is another file format that I don't know about, but it did not work. For the N64, I tried V64, Z64, and N64. Only N64 worked, and for the Dreamcast, CDI did work in one shot. So that's good news. If you want to figure out that more, then feel free to do so, but it's a good lead that you're able to put ROMs into the download folder and it will recognize them. You don't need to waste your time and put them in other folders because that will not work. A lot of people didn't know about this, so I hope this helped you out. I am very hopeful for this handheld and the lineage that is born from it, and I'm looking forward to the D-pad version of this handheld. I hope they have detached the analog stick from the D-pad, that they're two separate inputs, and they put some shoulder buttons on there, and I'm really looking forward to that handheld. If they fix those shortcomings, this will be one of the best handhelds in 2020 for sure, and I'll be definitely looking forward to getting my hands on those, so stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, and tell me something in the comments down below that you want to tell me. And I'll see you guys in the next video.